Yes. All right.
I think it is live. It is live. Yeah. Uh,
Lovely.
Great. So let's wait for maybe a minute or so for other people to join in. I'm sure other
Sure,
people
sure, sure,
will be joining in.
sure.
Let me also quickly check if people are joining in or not.
Yes, yes, please. Great. I think we do have okay. So I would want everybody to leave certain good comments, all the people who have joined in. Yes?
Okay. I think there are
Shall
few people who have already joined in the call.
yes.
Let's wait for maybe another 15, 20 seconds, or maybe maybe half a minute or so for the people to join in before we
Sure,
can
sure, sure.
start with the call.
Sure, sure, sure. And you're going to know all the people who have joined in. I think today's session is going to be really productive for you because you're going to know everything that you would want to know about a resume. It's going to be a really productive session. So,
Yeah,
all the queries that you've had and you cannot find them on Google, I think me and Vijay are going to help you find that. Answers to all of that.
absolutely, absolutely. So we have already gotten a lot of questions from the people as well,
Yes,
and I'm sure we would want to share a lot of things from our own experiences as well, which we believe that is going to help a lot of people who would be joining us in today's session.
exactly. Exactly, exactly. And also, please tell us if we are audible and like our voices are clear, like pretty much audible, so that you guys know what all of that what we discuss. You should be able to grasp onto it.
Yeah, I think we are audible to the people.
Please drop a comment telling us that if you're audible, please.
Okay, I think we can get started at least with introduction
Yeah,
and
Manish
everything.
is telling us that we are audible. So that thank you so much, Manish, for telling us, and also Vagesh, thank you for telling us that you're audible. Yes,
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So let me maybe quickly get started with introduction and everything, just to make sure that people know about the agenda as well as Pious classes things is everyone before they kind of quickly get started with the entire thing. One request that I have with people who are joining in this call is please stay till the very end, because first we're going to answer all the questions that you guys are going to ask. That is one. And even if let's say you don't have any questions, still I would recommend you guys to stay, because in most of the classes that we have taken, people have benefited more from the queries that other people have asked, because you might not know this query, but when you listen to the query that the other person has given, that is where you realize that, oh, I also had the same doubt. Okay.
exactly.
And the next thing is that we also have a surprise for all of our audiences, but that surprise, what exactly the surprise is, something that I am going to disclose at the very end of the call. So please stay till the very end and listen to this entire call to get all of your doubts and everything cleared about the resume points. Okay.
Yeah,
All
perfect.
right. All right, all right. So a quick introduction about myself. My name is Vijay Chandola, and I'm the co-founder and mentor at ThinkSays. So I also have happened to work a lot on the product management space. I've worked with Yes Bank, Axis Bank, and I did my MBA from Ahmedabad, which is where I kind of learned a lot of things about resume. And I have been doing my career coaching since then. It's been more than close to 4 and 5 years since I've been doing it. So we
Right.
started ThinkSays. So we started ThinkSays with that mission only, wherein we wanted to help a lot of students just like you guys. Because I know that when I passed out from my engineering college, the kind of resume that I had, and it would have made ton of difference in how I did my job search, had it been the case that somebody would have been there to help me out and guide
Things would
me.
be really easy for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So which is where I felt that it is much better for us to maybe connect with people and tell them what are the do's and what are the don'ts. What is it that the hiring managers are actually looking for? What is it that the talent acquisition managers are actually looking for? So this is a
Right.
brief about ThinkSays and I. So I'm very glad that we are joined by Janvi from Pious Classes. Janvi, can you introduce a little bit, with Pious Classes, and maybe tell your side of story before we get started with the questions?
Absolutely. So, hi everybody, all the people who are looking at these faces. I am Janvi Taneja. I am the founder of Pious Classes, and regarding my journey, I started off with all the teaching perspective when I was 17. So, I have always been this person who loves exploring things and learning new things from other people, and hence I found ThinkSage, and that's the reason we're doing this live. But
Yeah,
also, I started teaching when I was 17, and I realized that communication skills is something that people really struggle with. And living in the era that we have these days, even if you are an engineer, for example, you have your technical rounds, but the last round is the HR round where you have to clarify it to get the job. And most of the people struggle to represent themselves. Most of the people do not know how to bring in the best image of themselves to get that job. And thus, definitely, career suffers. Not just personal life, but your professional life really suffers when you lack communication skills. And
yeah.
hence, at Pious, we help you with building your public speaking skills, your communication skills, your soft skills, all the things that you would want to improve your personality in general, that helps you to become the better version of yourself in your personal and professional life. We cover all of that. So, yeah, that's about me.
Wonderful, wonderful to hear about you, Janvi. The thing, especially that you mentioned about yourself as you started it at the age of 17, kind of speaks volume about yourself.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. So can we get started with the questions?
Absolutely. So, I would want to bring in a few questions before you fire questions on me. So, let's keep it that way. Also, for people who are watching this live, they can leave the questions that they have in the comments. Though we'll be
Right.
covering most of the questions, but still, we would love to answer some customized questions for you. So,
Mhm.
first thing first, Vijay, a lot of people do not even know that why do they need a resume? Why is that resume is given so much importance in today's world? Why does one need a good resume out there?
Wonderful, wonderful question, actually, Janvi. So to start with, if I look at the way the hiring and everything happens, so there are a lot of people who reach out to the talent acquisition managers and the hiring managers, right?
Oh,
So before they basically call you to have that conversation with you, whether you should be working with their organization or not, so there has to be a mechanism which basically tells those hiring managers that you are someone who is actually a better fit for their organization, right?
right.
So the resume is nothing but it is sort of a brochure which basically tells the hiring manager that here is this guy who is a right fit for the job description for the role that is on offer um, from the company. So it essentially is basically a kind of a marketing brochure which basically tells the hiring manager that you so why is it that you are someone who should be chosen over everyone else to have that interview with the hiring manager.
Right, right, right. So basically, it's a way of representing yourself and your skills, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is exactly the reason whenever we talk about resume, the fundamental problem with resume is that when we create a resume, we start thinking about ourselves. Then what is it that I have in myself, and we write resume as if we are at the top. We are at the center of everything. It
Right,
actually isn't. When you are writing the resume, it you have to basically think that so it is the company which is at the center, and you are writing to the company stating that against that company, against that job description, this is how you are basically a good fit.
right, right, right. Great. That's a good answer.
Yeah,
I think by now we know that what are we talking about. Now, this is why you should be watching this live, because all the questions that we're going to cover today will help you to represent yourself in the best way, best way possible. So that brings us to the second question out there, which is, what is the basic difference between a resume and a CV? I have seen a lot of people misusing these terms, like mixing both of these. So if we have to differentiate between both, how do we do that, Vijay?
absolutely, absolutely. So in India, what we have seen is that people use CV and resume interchangeably, which is in a way it is accepted, at least in India.
Okay.
But if I talk about the essential, the core difference that we have between the CV and resume is that resume is that one page, that 1.5 pager, which basically gives a very short summary about who you are as a person and why is it that you should be hired, right? But a CV is something which basically is given by very niche professions like lawyer or maybe a CA or maybe a doctor, wherein they have not just written about who they are, their summary, but also they detail out what are the projects that they have worked upon, which basically talk about their credentials of handling some specific scenarios. So in our case, okay, whenever you are basically writing something to the something to, let's say, a hiring manager, in your case you basically write about that summary. You don't have to write a CV of, let's say, 4 or 5 or 6 pages. Instead, you have to write a resume which can quickly be scanned, and on the basis of that scan, somebody should be able to quickly tell out that this is who this person is and this is what is his specialization and this is what he wants to do in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
So the basic difference lies with the length of both of them, is it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's a difference in the length, because CV could be very detailed. It could be 5, 6, or even 7 pages. However,
Right.
in the regular scenarios, if let's say you're applying for a sales manager, if you're applying for a business development manager, if you're applying for, let's say, product manager, you're applying for maybe an interior designer, an engineer, or anything of that sort, like maybe a digital marketer. For anything of that sort, you need to create a resume which could be a 1.5 page long.
Because I think everybody has heard it by now that it's stated that the resume shouldn't be really long. It shouldn't be more than one page. A lot of people advocate that,
Yeah.
and now we know the reason behind it. Why are people advocating that it shouldn't be really long,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. See, think of it from a hiring manager's perspective. I keep on putting my points, or let's say my emphasis on that to everyone, because what happens is that when I, let's say, I am uh, so I'm a hiring manager. If let's say I have 100 resumes in front of me and I want to interview, let's say, 5 people or let's say 10 people, then
Right,
I wouldn't take maybe 4 5 minutes on each and every resume. What I will do instead is that I'll quickly do a scan, maybe for 15, 20, 25 seconds. Maybe I'll take longer for only those cases to whom I found so I find really important or really interesting. In another
right,
cases, maybe I'll take a decision in 20, 25 seconds itself. So if you want to make that impact in that 20, 25 seconds itself, so you have to say so you have to stay very brief and to the point and tell
precise.
them, okay, this is how it is. If you make something of, let's say, 4 or 5 pages, that means I essentially have only 3 or 4 seconds per page, and I'm absolutely sure that if you do it in that 3 to 4 seconds, then you have very less chance of making that impact.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a really valid point, putting it out there. Good one. Okay, so you've apparently solved the question that I had, the third question that I had for you, that whether it should be more than one page or what. You've already covered that. So let's
Yeah.
move to the next question that we have. Also,
Yeah.
people are really showering really good like vibes on us, and one of them has asked that I'm pursuing second year MBA and I am a fresher. How to create a good resume? So I'm sure, Vagesh, that we're going to cover this by the end of the session. You'll be pretty much aware how you should be making a resume. Is it? Yes, Vijay?
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with you on this. I'm sure, because we'll cover all the points. This should get covered. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is another really important question that, for example, somebody has a job experience, like
Okay.
putting it very precisely. So, should I include jobs that I've had earlier but do
Hmm.
not relate to the job that I'm applying for right now? So,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's a very valid question. Actually, if let's say you have an experience, so it depends. Actually, if I talk about the chronology in a resume, okay,
right,
what happens what happens is that the thing that you are doing right now is the most relevant thing. Okay,
right,
so that's the first thing. If you are doing something right now, even if let's say you are switching a job, you are getting into a different domain, still this holds much more relevance, because this is where I, as a hiring manager, can absolutely say that if this person has those skills, those non-functional skills which are essential to do a particular kind of job or not, right? So if
right,
let's say I want to get into product management from consulting, okay, in both the jobs, I know that analytical skill is critical, right? So I would definitely want to check whether you did some analytical part of work when you were into consulting or not, right?
right,
In similar fashion, even if let's say you have done some job maybe at a at a previous stage, of your career, if that is not relevant, even then you can basically talk about those resume points which might not be which might not be relevant from the technical point of view, but which might be relevant from that non-functional point of view, right? But
Right.
example could be that you working across the teams, as in, if let's say you are working as an engineer, but you are communicating with a business analyst, you are communicating with a product owner, you are communicating with maybe let's say designer. That talks about you are someone who can manage the stakeholders well, and that
Agree.
stakeholder management can very well be part of your next job as well. So you can put in those points which might be relevant to the your future prospect job, because it kind of adds on to your value. And if let's say you are basically trying to avoid that point from your resume, then it basically doesn't put a great light about you, because it either will say that you had a gap, or it will basically tell the person that you were there in that job but you did not do anything substantial, and hence you are basically hiding that part of yourself. So
Right.
instead, show it, but show it in a light which might be relevant for your future job as well. So
This is
speaking of
so good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of this, Janvi, I also have a question for you, right? So you said
Yes.
that you started working on all those things at the age of 17 itself. So I'm sure you must have had a lot of interaction with a lot of students, and because the kind of job that you have been doing with your Pious classes
Right.
on Instagram, that you're
Right.
connecting with a lot of people with vocabulary, with communication, with GDs, debates, and everything. So can you tell, what are the biggest apprehensions people have, when it comes to creating resume? What is your perspective on this?
I think yes, that's right because I see a lot of people like who are trying to apply for MBA colleges, a lot of people who are applying for jobs after they're done with their courses come up to me and they have no idea how to roll about it. And
Yeah.
I've realized that while they're making a resume, there are certain errors or mistakes that a lot of people make.
Yeah.
One of it has to be that they use wrong grammar and like misspell things. So if
Mhm.
you're, I'm reading it as you've stated, I'm reading a page about your life. It's almost like you're reflecting yourself in like a page. And
Yeah.
in that page, I see spelling errors, I see grammatical
Mhm.
errors. That doesn't showcase a good value image in my head about you. Yes.
Mhm.
So first of all, you have to be really mindful of the spellings and the grammar that you're using. Another one,
Absolutely.
I think, exaggerating the truth or
Yeah.
exaggerating things is also something that I've come across. I read a lot of resumes where it's too exaggerated. I legit have to think about whether this thing is actually right or is it actually wrong, whether this is a
Yeah.
lie or this is actually a truth. So do not exaggerate things. Keep it
Mhm.
short and precise. Another one is poor formatting. I think people really mess up with their formatting and their font of the resume. They try
Yeah.
and make it really colorful and really funky, which should not be the case. It has to be kept really simple and really basic. So,
Mhm.
because that's how it looks professional. So, if you're adding
Absolutely.
a lot of colors, you're not making a magazine out of it. You just want to reflect yourself professionally, and that's how you have to keep the font really basic and
Mhm.
the sizing as well. It should be readable. I shouldn't
Mhm.
find the font to be really small or really large. So, the font, the formatting really plays an important role. Another one I would suggest using the wrong email ID. I think I have seen a lot of resumes with really weird email IDs. So you will
Mhm.
find these like email IDs that you made when you were kids and you're mentioning the same email ID on your resume. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
email ID should look professional. It should reflect that you are a professional and you
Mhm.
are sincere towards your work.
Mhm.
Another one could be, I think, like not tailoring as per the job that you're referring to. So, for example,
Mhm.
I'm applying for 10 different jobs, and I agree. If I am, for example, I belong to the digital marketing fraternity. I
Mhm.
am
Mhm.
applying for 10 jobs, but then every job that I'm applying for would have few different requirements, or the
Mhm.
job role that they're looking for would have certain specifications. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think tailoring a bit, taking out a few seconds of your day or a few minutes of your day and tailoring your resume to that particular job before sending it. I think that
Mhm.
also is really important.
Mhm. Mhm.
And also, not, I think, again, as you mentioned, making it too long, not keeping it short and precise. That's also one of the errors that people make. And not putting your contact information out there. A lot of people miss out on providing their contact information. How is the company going to reach out to you? There should be a professional way. They should, if you don't mention your email ID, if you don't mention your contact number, you mention a wrong contact number, all of
Mhm.
that is going to reflect while
Mhm. Mhm.
they reach
Mhm.
out to you. And I think an unoriginal personal profile. I think
Mhm.
also I've realized that people like, for example, I reflect an image of mine which is not true, not real. The moment I'm gonna have an interview with you, you'll reflect. That's gonna be reflected. If I
Mhm.
mention that I'm really good at my communication skills, and the moment I take up, like, I am giving you an interview, you'll be able to make out that Janvi doesn't know how to speak. So
Absolutely.
keeping it right, true. I mean, everybody lies a little bit. That's fine, but not
Mhm.
lying to an extent that it's so exaggerated that people can't even digest it.
Mhm.
So all of that, and mentioning all the skills that you've had, all the achievements that you've had.
Mhm.
Please sit down, realize all the achievements that you've made by now, and
Mhm.
list it depending on whatever the job description requires. So if
Mhm.
I am applying for a digital marketing job or I'm applying for a managing position, I will sit down, see what the job description needs, and
Absolutely.
mention all of my achievements, because that's exactly what's going to reflect. Before I
Mhm.
sit for the interview, my resume will be rejected if they don't see a lot of value in my profile and my personality. So take out time and mention all the good things about yourself, all the achievements that you've made. I think
Mhm.
that's really important. Yeah.
I think one thing that actually caught my attention here, but when you mentioned that sometimes people have those silly grammar mistakes. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that a person makes these mistakes deliberately. Okay, but the problem is when you do make those mistakes, what happens is that it clearly means that you have not gone through your resume twice,
You've
thrice, or
not rechecked it. Yes.
absolutely. You've not checked your resume with maybe some sort of a hiring manager, or maybe some one of your friend, or maybe one of your professors, right? So if you have not done that, that means you have basically created a resume and just floated it across. And if I look at it from again from the talent manager's perspective, or let's say maybe the hiring manager's perspective, or the HR manager's perspective, to me it'll look as if you are not a very serious candidate, at least in your mind.
Exactly.
But you anyway applied just to try your luck, and that could not be a very great way of me basically uh, putting my recall as a person
Right.
who wants to get hired, right? So if you are basically trying to make a resume, this is very very essential. So we don't expect you to basically create a resume in a fabulous English writing. Now, even
Right.
if you are writing in the simplest of language that basically tells who you are, that is completely fine. But
Right.
if there are grammatical mistakes, very small, here and there, spelling mistakes, that is something which is not excusable.
Absolutely. And even like, though this is a little out of context, even when you're sending an email, please reread it. Just go
Yeah.
through it again. See if you've made any grammatical error, spelling error, because
Mhm.
that shows the level of discipline and sincerity that you have towards your profession. So it's
Absolutely.
not about English anymore. It's about how much of effort you're putting in before you're sending it to someone.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. All right.
Okay.
So,
So yeah,
yeah.
please. Shall I ask you a question, or do you have something to ask Vijay?
Okay. So I have one question. Okay. So sorry. Please, you can go ahead. You can go ahead. No, sure.
Okay. Shall I go with one more and then we can switch sides? Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. Not a
Okay.
problem.
Okay. Okay, so if somebody is volunteered, let's take an example. Usually, resumes are when people have less experience; they are
Mhm.
freshers, right?
Mhm.
So, for example, I did some kind of volunteering experience back in college,
Mhm.
or back in college specifically, or maybe while I was not hunting for a job, I did some kind of volunteering experience. Should I
Mhm.
mention that in the resume, or I should avoid it?
Yeah, I think in your resume. So one thing that I would want to kind of highlight here. Okay, when you go to your job, um, your job description. Okay, the thing that you would be doing at the job, it has basically two aspects of it. Okay, one is the technical part of it, which obviously you are required to do. If let's say you are being hired as a Python engineer, then you need to know Python. You cannot say that I don't know Python, but I still want to work. Or let's say you are being hired as a digital marketer, then you need to know some basics about digital marketing. I'm not saying that you should be pro in it, but at least you should have some basic sense. Okay, this is Google Analytics, this is Facebook Analytics. So you need to have all of those ideas, right? But
Absolutely.
but while that technical knowledge is a part of it, at the same time there are other aspects which are typically not basically basically kind of we have taken care of, which could be like working in a team, which could be how to maybe talk to your hierarchy, talk to your boss, or talk to your a person who has recently joined and you have now gotten, let's say, 1.5 years of experience, how to talk to a different person, how to talk to a vendor, how to talk to a supplier, how to talk to your client. So all of those
Right.
things are, we basically, are not aware, right? So now when you are saying that, you have volunteered, this is what essentially showcases your skill, that if you are put in a team, then you might be trusted over someone who has done nothing but only his academics, because you are not just someone who is just studying the technical part of it, who is not
Right.
just studying the concept, but also he is doing something out there, applying the concepts that he's studying in the books, right? So
Right.
if you have done that volunteering experience, just try to tailor it a little bit in, as per the JD, but do mention it, because it basically tells those people that you have that non-functional aspect which could be critical, which could be essential in you getting shortlisted for that particular job.
Right. Makes sense. And that also reminds me that when you're working, I think it's also very important to reflect whatever your job experience has been like in the correct way possible. So, for example, you maintain the records of a lot of customers.
Okay.
Usually, you might be writing, okay, I was actually doing an accounting job for like
Mhm.
maybe for
Mhm.
the company. The way
Mhm.
you mold it and frame it is also really important. So you can mention that I had the like that you can you mention the number of the people that you were doing it for. So for example, I was maintaining the records for a company. A lot of
Mhm.
people would just mention that. I can add the quantitative like quantitativeness to it by mentioning the number of people I have like worked around with while I was working for this company. That shows that just makes a like better better impact, because now it shows that okay, I've handled so many clients.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
also the way you put it out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it
Being
depends.
mindful.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, yes. So because if it is an accounting job, then you might want to put it in a different fashion, and
exactly,
then that, say, if you are basically getting into a relationship management kind of a role, because although the kind of work that you've done is it could be similar, but at the same time, it might be different for a person who is hiring an account manager versus a
exactly.
person who might be hiring someone totally different. So
Exactly.
speaking of that, actually, so I have a question for you,
Sure,
Janet.
please.
So you talked about how people should be mindful of their emails. Okay, so I know that when, let's say, we are speaking to the hiring managers, when we are writing an email to a person who is hiring or maybe an HR. So
Right.
one question, at least from the communication aspect of it, because since you have been using communication at a lot of places, since a lot of time now. So what kind of follow-ups are okay? As in, should I send an email and then forget about it and expect them to come back, or should I do a follow-up? And if, let's say, I should do a follow-up, then what kind of follow-up is okay? Like, should I do send an email every day? How does it work?
Okay. So I think firstly, it's really important to follow up because I have like if a hiring manager is going through a lot of people out there, but if you follow up, this person gets a reminder that yeah, this person was actually somebody that had
Right,
sent in a resume. I just get a recheck of it. So I would highly recommend following up. Now,
right.
it's stated that a lot of hiring managers actually like when people follow up, and
Mhm.
it's usually stated that you should follow up approximately after 1 to 2 weeks after submitting the resume. I think
Absolutely.
1 week is a minimum period that you should give after sending the resume. If you don't get a revert after 1 week, then you can send a follow up email, as per me. So a minimum of 1 week, and you can do it around like 1 to 2 weeks is good enough to follow up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And now, again, how do we follow up? Should we send an email? How should we go about it? So the best way to follow up is sending them an email. That's the
Mhm.
best way that you can do. But also, if you do not have an email for XYZ reasons, you can send them a hard copy, or or you can also contact the company if you have a number out there. So the best like way is an email, but you have other ways out there as well if you don't have an email ID. Though it's really rare that you don't have an email ID now. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's get to understand that how should the email look like when you're following up.
Mhm.
What are the things that I should take care of?
Mhm.
So the title of the email should have the position that you were applying for and your name, so that the moment you look at the email,
Mhm.
when I look at the subject, I just understand. Yeah, this is the reason. This is a following email from dash 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 person. So that gives
Mhm.
me a reminder of your name and the position that you were applying for, even if I don't open the whole email and go through it. So the
Mhm.
subject has to be really to the point, precise.
Mhm.
Another
Mhm.
one, I think it's really important. This is just an email etiquette thing that I would like to add in, that please write salutation at the start, give a good salutation, and also put a signature at the end of the email whenever
Mhm.
you're following up. And it's just not about following up. Whenever you're sending a professional email, it is required that you add in a salutation and a signature at the end.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, to just revise all of this, please follow up. A minimum of 1 week is necessary before you follow up after sending a resume. And
Mhm.
when you said that email is the best way to follow up to a company, and please add in your like your name and your position in the title of the email, the subject,
Mhm.
and there should be a salutation and signature while you're writing an email because that shows the professional setup. Also, please recheck it. You should not have any grammatical or spelling error as we mentioned it. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. As I think, I hope everyone is enjoying, this call. They are finding some value in it. Can
Yes.
we get a yes if you guys are finding value in it from the
Yes.
audience? So we are going to take your questions now. Okay, so also we have all the questions
Shall I
that we
read
can
it for you, Vijay?
put
Shall
in
I
here.
read it for you?
Uh, sure, sure. So okay, perfect. So we've started getting those questions also. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So the first one that you can see on your screen right now that I'm pursuing second year MBA and I'm a fresher. How do I create a good resume?
Absolutely. So one thing, when so you are doing an MBA, as a fresher, you need to have a mix of things. Okay, so first identify what kind of profile you would want to work for. It could be consulting, it could be product, it could be sales, business development, it could be operations, strategy, it could be anything, right? So try to get a broader understanding of what is it that you want to get into. Even if let's say you are not sure, maybe you what you can do is that you can basically arrive at, let's say, one or two broader areas. If one could be, let's say, general management, second could be, let's say, consulting. All right. And once you have gotten that understanding, then you can start writing your points. So it could be your academics, because you are a fresher, then you have to put the academics at the top, so that they should know that you are someone who is from so and so college, who is from so and so background. Once you have done that, you can talk about the projects that you have done during your first year of MBA, because in during an MBA, from the first year, first semester itself, you start working on the projects, which again are relevant to the analytical part of it, the problem solving part of it, the case study part of it, right? And
Right.
then if you have done any certifications, because right now as a fresher you don't have anything to showcase, towards the any part of it. You are not sure whether you are into marketing or anything of that sort, right? So how you can show that you are someone who is interested in marketing is by basically showing that you have done certifications, and hence now that this is something that excites me. Or maybe what you can talk about is that if let's say you have gotten grades from the first semester, you can basically talk about maybe you can write one pointer that you got, let's say, 4 pointer on market research or whichever subject that you have studied so far. Okay, so once you have done that, then you can, if the space permits, if let's say you still have space in that one piece of resume of yours, then do not leave that space aside. Okay, write about like one of your hobbies, which basically aligns with the role that the companies would be offering. So do not write playing sports, because that is very generic. So
I'm so sorry. Sorry.
okay,
I'm so
so
sorry.
write, no issues, no issues. So write things such as, let's say if you have played sports, we can talk about you won something at district level, state level, intra university, university level, while you were the captain of the team, or you were something that basically shows that you were a leader, or that basically shows that you played at a very high level, where the stress can be very high, the pressure handling could be very different, right? So you'll have to mention all of these points, and once you do that, then basically you can do that spell check, grammar check, and everything, and the format check and everything. All right, I hope this answers the question.
Should I mention college project while applying for a senior engineering post?
It's a valid question. So if you already have good amount of experience, when I'm hearing the senior engineer, I'm assuming that you already have worked for 5-6 years at least, because you must have joined as a junior engineer, or as an engineer in your company. Now you have already 3 or 4 years of experience, or you may have joined one or two different organizations as well. So whenever you
Right.
have this much amount of experience, then it is most likely that in 90% of the scenarios, the companies would want to ask you questions that are specific to your work experience. They won't ask you questions on your college project. Okay,
Right.
so you should detail out on what positions you have worked upon. If you have worked upon a senior engineer before, write about that. If you have worked as engineer, if you have worked at assistant engineer, write about all of those things, and write about maybe the certification that you have done or the skill set that you bring in. If you are an engineer, I'm sure you must have studied some sort of languages, right? So please make sure that you are talking about those skill sets. Like I said before as well, you have to talk about the things that has happened right now, because the chronology order that basically says that you have to talk about the things which are latest more. Trust me, at least in my experience of speaking with a lot of students like you, people are asked almost every time they are asked from their work experience, if they already have gotten work experience. Putting a hobby or maybe putting a college project might not actually give you those brownie points. If you're a fresher, yes, please put this, because this basically shows your um, uh,
Right.
your credentials, that you are someone who are into this. But if you have something, then absolutely what you should do is that you should talk about your experience, not about your college projects.
Right. So
Thanks,
basically,
Google.
it comes down to experience that you have.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. Can you please
So
repeat?
it basically comes down to the kind of experience that you have had earlier, right?
Absolutely. So a broader idea is that if you have done 3 to 4 years of work, then I don't think it is required. But if you don't have that much sort of experience, and if you still want to showcase that you are someone who has done some significant work in college, go ahead. That should not be a problem.
How can I overcome my 12 standard marks in my resume even though I have good marks in BTech standard?
I don't think that is going to be too big of a problem, to be very honest. Okay, so if you
Exactly.
have good marks in BTech, what you can do is that you can write a little more elaborated answer about it. You don't have to just mention your computer engineering college and marks, right?
Right.
So when you are mentioning that, you alongside that you can create 1 or 2 bullet points saying that you scored good marks in BTech, maybe um, uh, subject, let's say engineering mathematics 1 or maybe engineering mathematics 2. So you can write about those, that you got good marks and you are in top 5% of your batch, your top 10% of your batch, and then basically you can talk about your 12th mark. So which might not look very serious if you have already shown the company or the hiring manager that you are someone who has done really well, who has bounced back after getting those suboptimal, let's say
Agree.
average marks in 12 standard.
Yeah. Correct, correct. Absolutely. Okay, so hi, my question is if my working profile same last two companies, what should be mentioned in resume? It is separately or mentioned company by company. Okay. So basically, if the working profile was the same for two companies that she's worked for, so should she mention it separately or she should mention it different, like in two different formats?
Nishta, you should mention it separately. See, because no matter how similar the work was, there are obviously things that you can show on your resume differently, and it also basically shows that you have more experience than that of other people, or let's say you are someone who can be trusted more. If you have worked in two companies at similar profile, that also shows that you are an expert in that field. If you basically club those things, then what will happen is that the hiring manager might interpret it as if it is one experience.
Right.
Okay, so it is always suggested that you put all of the experiences separately, even if let's say you don't have too many points there to put.
Perfect. Good one. I am in second year of engineering. How should I create resume for internship as fresher?
Can you answer this question? I'm sure a lot of people must be coming you with these kind of queries.
Okay, so I think when you're applying for an internship, it's really important, as you've stated, that it depends on the work experience you've had so far. So, for example, if somebody was working already, somebody has 2 years of work experience in particular company, he mentions that. But when
Mhm.
you are in second year of engineering, all you have to mention is the projects that you're working on right now and the
Yeah,
internship that you've done so far. So
absolutely.
here you can talk about your skills, your hobbies. That doesn't really come in account when you are talking about when you've already had a work experience of certain years. But when
Hmm.
you are a fresher and you're already like you're in the college right now, so you can talk about the internships that you've had, the projects. Obviously, a lot of colleges have these college projects that you work on, right? So you'll talk about that. Talk about these projects in detail and also the role that you are specifically handling. So, for
Hmm.
example, you've handled a team or you have worked on a specific project that is still in making, even if it's still in making or is still in the process, you can
Hmm.
mention that. And for example, a lot of colleges have these societies, right? So please, these are also important while you're trying to apply for internship. For example, I am the part of a like entrepreneurship society that I have, or maybe even if it's a uh, maybe it's an acting society, doesn't matter about that. But if I am actually, for example, I am into the acting society, that's a skill that I possess that shows that I'm good with my communication skills. So all of the work that you've done in terms of your in terms of your college societies, your like if you have done an internship before it, mention that. If not, then all the college projects that you've done so far,
Yeah,
include that, because they don't expect you to be working for a company when you're in second year of college. They know that
absolutely,
you don't have a lot of work experience, but they look at your personality in this perspective and all the skills that you possess so far.
absolutely, absolutely. Okay, I think the next question is how can I set keywords in my resume? I think that's a wonderful question. Actually, this is something for some reason it was not answered before in this call. I'll give a
Right.
quick background on this. Like Janvi also mentioning in the call, that see when you are sending a resume. So the problem with a lot of people, a lot of us, I'm not saying that this is something that is specific to a specific person. All of us do it actually. Okay, we create one resume, we think that this is a lot of work that we have done. Now then we apply to 100 companies with the same resume that we have created. The problem, so while it is easy to apply, but the problem with that kind of approach is that you might not get a call for even from even one company, because when, as a hiring manager, I'm reading the resume and reading the job description, I might not be able to relate at all, right? Which is why you need to do a keyword optimization. So how do I do a keyword optimization? I can simply create a word cloud on wordclouds.com, or maybe another place where we can create a word cloud and just copy the job description, put it on that word cloud software, right? Once we do that, we'll be able to quickly see like what are these keywords that this job description is focusing on, because the bigger the word, more is the frequency of that particular word. So if, let's say, in a job description, problem solving is coming more often, okay, development is coming more often, then those words should be there in your resume also. Just identify those keywords, and just do not put them or sprinkle them here and there. What you need to do is that you need to basically look at what all the sentences that you have created and see where your sentences, your word keywords can be replaced with that keyword. Once you do
Right.
that, then when I'm skimming, I'm just looking at the keywords. And the moment I see that, the development, let's say problem solving, or what are those keywords are, the similar keywords are appearing in my resume, I would definitely want to basically, shortlist that kind of resume. So always try to optimize your resume for the keywords that are in the JD.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay, yeah, big surprise at the end of the session, guys. That's right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, also, I'd like to ask you, what do you have to say about action verbs, Vijay?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question. So when we are creating a resume, we talk a lot about the format, we talk a lot about the content and everything. So one thing that we need to make sure is that we are starting the sentences very clearly, because the starting three four sentences have a lot of weight, because these words are read more often by the hiring manager. That means that we need to make that impact in this first 3 4 words itself. Okay.
Exactly.
uh, because these three words, three four words are so much important, we have to start these words by action verbs. Why action verbs are important? Because they basically uh, talk about what was your contribution to a project, to work experience, to a company, to a volunteering experience, to a project. They basically tell that what is it that you do, and the hiring manager is precisely interested in that. They're not
Right.
interested in the project that you did, right?
Right. And also the fact that action verbs just help you highlight, because it's a part of the vocabulary I'd like to add, that it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
helps you to highlight your role in a better format. So, for example, you led a team. A lot of people would just say, "Yeah, I led a team." If you say
Mhm,
that I coordinated a team, I chaired a team, I
mhm.
operated a team, it shows the intensity of that action. It shows
Absolutely.
it highlights the intensity. Similarly, if somebody has to mention that, okay, I saved the company's time or money, if, instead of
Mhm.
saved, if you use the word conserved, or use the word I deducted. So all of these words sound more professional, and it helps you to highlight your particular role in a better format. Yeah, we do have more questions. Prashant, I
Okay.
can help you. Yeah, I'll just, yeah. How to manage educational gap in resume?
Yeah. So education gap work. to be very honest, they were crying before COVID. If you have education gap, they were seen as very negatively by the companies. Not anymore, all thanks to COVID. There's one thing that has happened positive because of COVID is that people are becoming more receptive to gap. They are not seen as negative as they used to be seen before. Okay, so if you
Right.
have such gaps, that's completely okay as long as you are able to tell that you did something which was productive in that gap. You can basically say that you were on that gap, but that gap helped you in becoming a more serious candidate about the job for which he is basically appearing for. If let's say you want to get into a software engineering role, so you can basically talk about which language did you learn during that gap, which certification did you do, which will basically help you in thriving in a very stressful or maybe a challenging organization. If you can define that, so people are actually appreciating it, that this guy, this person, this candidate has a courage to leave the job or maybe leave the education, spend a year on focusing on himself, making himself more, maybe thinking about himself or herself and making himself or herself more productive.
Right. Agreed. Agreed. Absolutely. Okay. So, can I know about the surprise now? Vijay, we've been holding on to this surprise for quite some time. Yes.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Janvi, for doing this entire moderation as well. So before I talk about the surprise, guys, if you found value in this session, please consider subscribing the channel as well as consider looking at our Instagram channel, because there we are adding a lot of value, a lot of content that you guys would definitely appreciate. And now talking about surprise. Okay, so a lot of people like you and I, or maybe a lot of candidates, they have problem. They struggle with the format of a resume, right? So here, what we are doing is that we are giving 4 different formats of resumes, and these resume formats can be used by experienced folks, experience holders, as well as the people who are freshers who do not have any experience at all. So
Right.
you will shortly receive a link here below in the comments, and in that you can click on this comment. You will be redirected to the page from where you can download. You don't have to give any information, no email collection, no name connection, nothing. You can simply go there, click on the link, and download the resume for yourself. Okay, it's in
Right.
description also. We have added this also in description now, so you can just go to the description and click on that link and download uh, the session for you. If you liked it, please share this video with all of your friends and everyone, so that they can also go there, watch this session, and then eventually download the format and apply the learnings that we have basically talked about here in the session.
Absolutely. That's a really well structured surprise. I think everybody's going to go and download them and everybody's going to share the knowledge and the resume templates with everybody because I think everybody would benefit out of it. Yes?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I would like to thank you, thanks Pious classes as well for making this
Thank you so
possible.
much.
Thank you so much. We shall
Yeah,
definitely connect. We shall definitely connect for more such sessions. If you guys find it useful, please share it with your friends. If we find viewers as well as likes on this YouTube video, we'll definitely consider doing a different
more
session
sessions.
on maybe a different topic as well.
Absolutely. And we're going to plan a few more sessions together. So, guys, you should follow ThinkSage and Pious classes both on YouTube and Instagram because you're going to get some really productive and good content out of both of the accounts. So, yeah, I am hoping to get really good associations in the future as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Janvi. Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks,
thanks everyone.
Vijay.
Have a nice weekend. Bye bye.